All right, here we are. This is bonus content of the Joyful Solopreneur because we just wanted to, we were having so much fun. We wanted to be joyful and do it one more time. So we are at the Joyful Solopreneur. You are listening to that with Kathy Basel and me, Mary Gaul. It is the go-to podcast for solopreneurs seeking to infuse joy back into their businesses. Each episode is brimming with actionable advice and heartfelt insights, empowering you to shape your business on your terms. From honing your message to playful profit planning, prepare to engage with a supportive community that advocates for joy, creativity, and successful entrepreneurship. So, as I mentioned, we're going to dive into this bonus episode of the Joyful Solopreneur podcast. Our idea was to have this be a pop-up podcast with only 9 episodes, but somewhere in episode 8, we reached a bullet point and we said, this could actually be its own 30-minute episode. So here we are today. And today's topic is...
It's all about time management without a team. So
Yay.
we're going to go through some things and give you some tips because your most important asset is your time and energy. So what can we do as solopreneurs as you're starting out? Maybe you don't even have a team yet, or maybe you've got some VAs that you still work with, but we're just getting started. So how can you effectively use tools, technology, and systems to make the most of your time? I like to think they talk about the most effective way to use our brains. We can only be focused and effective for about 4.5 hours a day. So what if you had that as your target? What we're just working 4.5 hours each day. How would you make the most of that?
Yes.
Mary, I know this is one of your
I
favorite
love
topics.
that. Yes, I love diving into these tools. I coach my clients around this a lot and work on it myself. I love discovering new tools to help me be more effective. And so we're going to jump right into tools. And one of my all-time favorite tools that I tell everybody to get is a timer. Preferably not the timer on your phone, but getting just a good old-fashioned kitchen timer, right? Get yourself a little egg timer, whatever it is, up to an hour long, and put that on your desk. Because when you learn to work by the timer, your brain automatically learns to focus, right? It learns to say, okay, I'm working on this project. I only have 30 minutes, or I'm going to social media. I'm setting the timer for 15 minutes and then I'm getting out, because otherwise you could be there for 2 hours and not realize it, right? So timers help you so much. I use them when I'm working with my clients. So I set the timer so I know when our hour is up. I use it when I'm working on projects, when I'm going into my inbox, my email box, I'll set it for 30 minutes and say, how many emails can I get through in 30 minutes, right? Or especially with social media, setting a timer and saying, okay, I'm going to go into LinkedIn. I'm going to spend 20 minutes in there and then I'm out. So use your timer. It seems so simple to be true, but you'll be amazed when you start to use your timer, how it can help you stay focused and be more productive.
Yeah. And with those, I like to call those focus sprints. So my brain, I'm not very as focused as you disciplined, but even if it's just a 25-minute sprint and alternating that, because we really are energetic beings and we can only stay in deep work so long. So that's one of the targets, is to do deep focused work, eliminate all the distractions, put it all aside. I like how you say, if you need to, while you're doing this, if you've got other thoughts that pop up, I like to just keep a pad beside me and write down those other thoughts,
Mhm.
just getting it out of the brain for the time being while you're doing it, so that you can stay in that 100% deep focused time. But it's so important for us physically to get up, and it's not just like saying, okay, that block is over, I'm going to go surf, hop on social media. You have to physically get up and go do something, get a change of scenery. Our brain needs that shift, that change. Your body does well to move, not just a workout in the morning. What they're finding more and more is that we're sitting too much. And so we want to
Yeah.
keep our brains vital and lively, right? So get up, physically move, do a couple squats. I'm kind of silly, so I love burpees. So I'll do burpees in between my time, but get some water. That's a great way to shift your state, so that you can get back
Yes.
to focus for the next one. But time the break too.
put on a little dance music. I have my 30-second dance party button.
Dance party.
I'll let it go a little bit.
Because we know you're dancing.
So 30 seconds of dancing will get your brain functioning again, get your body moving a little bit. You can buy a button for it. So it's really simple. There's 5 different songs on there. I love that thing. So other tools that we use to help us. So I use another tool. I was telling Kathy, I've probably used this tool for maybe 6 or 7 years. It's an app, and there's many apps, but this is just the one that I happen to use and like. But it's called Focus at Will, and it's the word focus, the @ sign, and then WILL. And it has brain entrainment music and sounds. So it's all at the frequency that you need to tell your brain to focus. Our brain is electronic, right? So when it has these electronic frequencies, it does tend to fire up a certain area of the brain that helps us focus. So you want things that are in the 40 to 30 hertz. It's called beta waves that help that area of your brain, stimulate the area of your brain so you can focus. You can find them on YouTube if you look up focus music or binaural beats, sometimes they're called, so you can play them for free. I like the app because it has a timer built in. So I can set it for 60 minutes, I can set it for 45 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever I've got. And I can choose, there's probably 20 different types of music or sounds or waves. I can choose the intensity from low, medium, and high of what that background frequency is. And then when I start the session, it dings a bell. So it kind of becomes like Pavlov's dog, right? So my brain hears that bell and it's like, focus. And then when the timer's done, the bell rings again and it's like, oh, I've been in this deep focus for the whole period, right? It's amazing once you start to use it, how hearing that bell at the beginning and the end, and then you kind of tune out the music that's going on. Sometimes I'll hear it, but really I don't hear it. I'm usually just really focused on what I'm doing. And then at the end, it has you rate, how do you think your focus was during this session? What was your productivity? So then it starts to learn about you and which sessions, how long. You can get a little report that you can print out, which sessions were the most productive, how long was I working, which music was I listening to, all that kind of stuff. So you can get it for free on YouTube, but it really does work. These beta waves, it stimulates that area of our brain that helps us focus. So highly recommend you try some of those.
Yeah, I like Insight Timer was one. And another sound, I go to YouTube a lot because I like the variety of the things. Bird sounds is one, and it's literally just the sound of birds chirping in the woods. And I don't know what it is about that, what they've done to it, but there's studies about the effectiveness of that. And the other one is whale songs. Kind of strange, but true. But the same type of thing of just training the brain. But I like how you said, Mary, about rating yourself at the end of that. How did I do? Because the awareness about that allows us to do better and better.
Yes. Another tool that I teach my clients about all the time is called a brain dump. So I call it the 10-minute focus tool, but it's really a brain dump. You might have heard that terminology before. But what's different about just getting all the thoughts out of your head so that you can focus, right? Because if your brain's spinning around 50 different ideas and things and tasks and all this stuff, it's going to be harder for you to have that deep focus work, right? So getting all of your ideas out of your head, doing the dump, is only the first step. So you get it all out of your head, all the tasks. I like to have a column for business and a column for personal stuff, right? Your life. So that you can kind of categorize things that way. But the second step, and set a timer. So do it for 10 minutes, get all the stuff out of your head for 10 minutes. And then you're going to go through and prioritize your list. So I go through anything that's on the business side and the personal side, put a dollar sign next to those things that are going to either make you money or cost you money if you don't do them, right? So on the personal side, it might be, oh, I got to turn in that contract, or I got to, send in pay this bill, or, whatever it is, get the bid to get the house repaired, that kind of stuff. If you don't do it, it's going to cost you more money. And on the business side, what are the things that are going to generate income? So those are going to be the things that you want to tackle first. at when you're most productive, right? So like Kathy was saying, we have these more productive times of the day. If we have 4.5 hours of productivity time a day, when are you going to do your money making things? If you're most productive in the morning, do them first thing in the morning, right? And then you're going to go through and create all of your admin tasks. And then you're going to mark all the things that are marketing related tasks or operational related tasks, right? So that then you can go through and group those things. And then the next step is to put them in your calendar. So if you have a money making time block and you put all of those tasks that are money making activities in that time block, then you can get all those, you can work your way through those, right? And if you put all your admin tasks, maybe that is energy draining for you, but you still have to get them done. Maybe you've got, some bookkeeping stuff you have to do, those kind of things. So when do you want to put that on your calendar? But if you say, here's my admin block, right? Don't just put admin block, because then when you see that and you don't remember exactly what you had to do, you're going to find something else to do besides all those admin tasks. So that's why it's good to have it written down, and then you transfer those lists and say, here's all the things that I had to do that were related to admin for my business. They're all here in this block. I can start to check them off, right? During whatever hour, focus time you have. If you don't get them all done, copy the ones you didn't do, put them in the next block, right? So using your calendar to help you implement and help you get those tasks done, and sorting them, prioritizing them by what brings in income in our business, because we're here to make money as entrepreneurs. We got to have money to keep our business alive. So what are the income things first, and then group the other things by type of energy and type of task they are, so that you can work through those in the same energy level block and get them cranked out.
Yeah. So I just love that, to kind of recap, just,
Mhm.
prioritize based on your calendar. I love how you said just each task, so that when you get to that period, you're not thinking about what that marketing task where you know exactly what you need to do and get to it. But I also like just the simple thing. You're all about celebration, of just celebrating at
Mhm.
the end of that time frame. What did you get done? And the self-review, like you were saying, of, did I overestimate how long this was going to take? Or, what kind of adjustments do I need to make in order to be able to get through those tasks in that amount of time? But
Great. Love that.
moving
Thanks
on
for
to
being in the
technology.
celebration.
Yeah, celebrate. I love your celebration thing.
I know. Yeah. And then at the end, if you have 5 minutes left, you can do some 30-second dance party. Move around. Yes.
Bonus.
Oh,
So
no.
really, a lot of people are doing that on calls and things like that, to gamify their challenges or things like that. But that's the way our brain works. When you
Yeah.
think about, and that's why the phone is so freaking addicting, because they've gamified our phone. All the
Mhm.
different notifications, the dings, all those things actually get our brain and trained to be looking for that. So there's so much study about how disruptive it is, just even to have the phone on your desk or in the room. Like, go ahead and put it away. I do happen to use my timer on my phone, which is probably not ideal, but you can also put it away. So I'll put it under my desk where I'm not looking at it and seeing the
Yeah.
thing. But do the same in reverse, of gamifying what you do. So what is the reward that you can put for yourself at the end of a good work session? Maybe it's a extra long break to, for me, I live down by the river, to go out to the river for an extra time. What is something that you can build in other than food?
Yeah,
I
exactly.
do that sometimes.
Yes.
But yeah. So, and then technology was the next division for us. There's so many different things. But a sterling statistic is how much time we end up searching for things, lost items, or information that we're not sure. How do we gather up the information that we need? There are some really, really cool tools coming on. It could be something as simple as Google Drive or OneNote, or some of the older systems, but there's new ones, like one that I'm checking out right now that's just absolutely mind blowing. It's called Notion, and it gives you the ability of using both AI and date, kind of like a database where you can interrelate everything. So now it's all under one umbrella, if you will, and you can search even by one word, and it can give you a list of all the places. So if you're looking for dog harness, or whatever that thing is, if there was something that you mentioned in a webinar one time, the title of a webinar or a book, You can do a quick search for, maybe you're looking for flow state book. You can put in the words flow state, and every reference that has anything to do with flow state is there in a moment. But the statistic is startling. We waste 1.8 hours every day searching for and gathering information, which would add up to 9.3 hours per week. 9.3
Yes.
hours.
That's a whole day and a half, right? If we only have, really, if we only have 4.5 days, that's 2 days of your work week, 2 productive days. Yeah. It's amazing. So yes, I love Google Drive. I have OneDrive that came with my computer, but I don't really use that. And then I use Dropbox, right, for my other business, because that's where I started it. And so I keep everything in Dropbox there. But my coaching business, everything's in Google Drive. And so really setting up your Google Drive so that it makes sense to you, and then putting things in the right folder. So when you download something, don't just download it and put it in your downloads. I mean, I guess you could just let your downloads live there, but then you have to search and you have to remember what it was called, or if you didn't change the title and it was just a string of letters, right, it's not going to find it. So making sure when you download things, put them in the right Google folder. It's kind of like the mise en place, right, in the kitchen. So everything has its place, put things back in their place. So whatever that system looks like for you, but there are easy ways to do that and set it up. So when you're in your email, you can just save things to the folders, right? Folders are your organization technology basic tools, right? So we can use. So we talked about calendars already, right? So how to use your calendar effectively. So making sure that when you are building those time blocks, those work blocks, that you're putting the tasks in there. If you choose to color code, I have a couple clients who color code their clients. I color code mine too, but they go in and change the color of their appointments to like red or green or whatever, so that they know everything that's still green at the end of the day didn't get done. So if they did the appointment or did the work block, they make it red. So then they know, okay, everything that's green for that week, they have to carry through into the next week, right? So there's lots of ways to use your calendar to help you to do that. It's one thing to create the work block. Kathy and I were talking about this, but it's another thing to actually honor that time, right? And as entrepreneurs, we have lots of things that we're working on in our business. So we sometimes say, oh, I'll skip over that, I'll do that later, right? And then we never come back to it, and then it's just scooted off of our calendar. So really, I don't have a tool for this. You're just gonna have to realize why it's important. And so sometimes that's why doing that prioritized brain dump at the beginning of a work session or your work week or whatever will give you the connection to why that's important to get it done. And if you have the list in your calendar item, again, that makes it easier for your brain to sit down and say, okay, I'm working on all my admin stuff or my marketing stuff. I know I need to go into LinkedIn and do 2 posts and follow 5 people. And I need to go into Facebook and, create a reel or whatever. So if you know those steps are in there, our brains like checklists. So you can go through and start checking down that list. Anything else you want to put in there about how to honor those blocks?
I think blocks is good, but just like you said, think of it as like a training camp. What would it take for you? Or for me, I'm a person of integrity. So I think, like you said, it's just so easy for us to say, put everybody else's stuff as a priority. It's like we're so quick to drop our own priorities that we're working on if somebody calls or interrupts. Like, what if we honored ourselves as highly as we do those interruptions? But give yourself those kudos of those times when you do, and recognize you're keeping your word to yourself.
Yes.
Really important to understand.
And it does build our self-confidence, right? And it erodes our self-confidence. So every time we don't keep our word to ourselves, our self-confidence drops down a notch. Like, oh, I can't even keep my word to myself. How am I going to keep my word to my clients, to my family, to my friends, right? So that does have an effect on us mentally every time we don't honor our word to ourselves, right? We may think, oh, I can just let it slide, but it does have an effect on us. So we need to make sure we find a way to honor that time.
And
Um,
start wherever you are. I like how you're saying it's a muscle that we get to build over time, and reward yourself. Be with that awareness of, like I said I was going to do it and I did it. And just with that repetition, it's training the brain in order to do that. So, if you're not good at an hour and a half block, then start with where you are. I love 25-minute
yeah.
blocks personally. And, whenever I do that, I'm not always capable of doing it. Some days are extremely disconnected in my own brain, but reward yourself for the times that you do and allow yourself grace for when you don't. But
Yeah.
understand the patterns too, of like, why didn't I? Reflect on that and understand, so that you can become stronger for the next block.
Yes. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, moving on. We're going to talk about templates. So this is another piece of technology. It's built into the technology we're already using for our emails. So if you find yourself writing the same email over and over again, stop it. So there are templates, and I'll look, there are templates you can build too, or a document or a text document, so that you have that written copy and then you just put it in there, copy and paste or insert the template. I probably have 12 or 15 in my Gmail that I use constantly over and over again, right? So you build your template, save it as your template, and then when you go to compose a new email, pop in the template, then you can still customize it. It saves so much time and energy. So you don't have to repeatedly create the same content over and over again. So I encourage you to do that.
There's a new app. It's called the Magical app, and it's literally just a plugin that you can put in on a Chrome instruction, but it lets you automate those repetitive tasks, just like you're saying, over and over, by moving data between the tabs without the integration. So it kind of fills in the blank. So if you start something, it knows, like kind of like the AI sometimes does, it'll finish the sentence for you. Same kind of thing. It automatically will fill in, of if you were always start with, I don't know, the State of the Union or whatever, it's going to fill in the rest of that idea for you. And that's another quick way, kind of like a mini template, if you will, of saving time.
Nice, nice. I'll check that one out. So, and then our favorite, well, not everyone's favorite, but our favorite right
If it's
now,
not, it should be your
it
favorite.
should be
I'm
your
like,
favorite. Yes.
for the drum roll is,
ChatGPT. Yes.
yeah, ChatGPT or
And
whatever.
AI tools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yesterday I was writing something, especially it was an email, and it was going to take me a long time because it was very technical. And I just was like, I'm going to sketch this out real quick and drop that into ChatGPT. That would have taken me 25 minutes to write that email, and it was done in like seconds, and it
Yeah.
was almost perfect. So it took me 2 minutes to revise it and put it in there. For writing stuff, for planning stuff, there's so many different ways that ChatGPT can be a game changer for you for the content creation. Essentially, if you set up your strategy in advance and let a tool like ChatGPT generate your things 80% of the way there, so that, if it, like I said, if it would have taken me 25 minutes and I could do it in two, how many times would it take for you to have saved hours in your week and that was just one example of writing an email. But when you're doing content creation, when you're doing planning and budgeting and customer service identification, writing job descriptions, writing product descriptions, like all of these things can quickly be done, oftentimes even better, by the AI tools. So if you haven't,
Yes.
just dive in, just embrace this, because it's here, it's expanding, and it's truly a game changer.
Yes. And, alternate. So yes, it's an amazing, amazing tool for your business, for marketing, for content, for planning, organization, strategies. But other ways you can use it in your personal life too, right? So you can throw in, I need a menu for the week, and I have kids that don't like to eat tomatoes, right? Give me 5 easy to cook tomato free recipes. It will pop those out for you. When I've used it to help me plan a trip, right? So I was going to a new area. It's like, we're going to be in this area for 3 days. Here's what we like to do. Plan me an itinerary here. And in 30 seconds, it came up with a 3-day itinerary for that city, right? So use it for all kinds of things. And rather than having to go to that city's website and then go to this travel website and that travel website and whatever, I just had everything in one place. So it really is, use it for everything. if it can't give you a good answer, it'll tell you, right? So use it for everything. That's all we have to say about the AI tools out there. So I just started playing around with Claude AI, and there's lots of them out there. ChatGPT is not the only one, and Apple's now bringing out their version. Google now has their stuff. Microsoft now has their stuff. So find one you like and start playing around with it. There are pretty amazing tools.
Love it. Love it.
Yes. Systems. Okay, systems. So my definition of system is saving yourself time, energy, and money. So that's a system to me.
Love that.
So there's many systems in our businesses as entrepreneurs, right? But some of the ways, since we're talking about how to help you focus and manage your time, so some of the systems around that we've been kind of dropping them in here and there. The Pomodoro method is a system. It was developed by teachers to help students focus and manage their focus time, right? So it's based around a 25-minute focused work period with a 5-minute break where you actually take a break from your screen, get up, walk around, get some water, that kind of stuff, and then come back and do another 25-minute work break, and then another 5-minute break. And you do that up to 4 times, and then you take a longer break, like a 30-minute break. And so this works with our brain's natural cycle, because we have an energy cycle of how long our brain can focus. And it's typically anywhere from most people, it's between 75 and 90 minutes. And then it needs to take a break and recycle itself, right? So almost if you imagine shutting down your computer or recharging your phone or those kind of things. So our brain's constantly in this cycle all day long. And so the Pomodoro method kind of fits within those cycles. Hopefully you can capture it, on the cycle, but that's 25 and 5. And then a new study was done by a workplace productivity team, and it's called teen method. So they found that more in the corporate environments, most people were more productive when they worked for a focused work block of 52 minutes with 17 minutes off. So you're working for a little bit longer, but you're taking a longer break each time, so that way you actually get up and move and have time to let your brain recycle. And then you come back and do another 52-minute focus block.
I've got a friend that I get together with once a week, and we'll do 3 cycles of something like this, and we'll vary depending on how much time we've got available. But it's so nice to layer in, have an accountability partner along with that. Otherwise, it'd be easy to run downstairs and flip the laundry or, whatever the distraction is. It's so easy to let that runaway train get started. And then, but, it's
Yes.
such Pomodoro rocks.
Yes, it really does. It really does. And, you might set the timer and think, oh, you get to the 25 minutes or the 52 minutes. You're like, oh, I could just power through. I'm just going to do another one, reset it for 25 minutes. You think you're still being productive, but your brain the brain productivity is going down. So it's going to take you longer to focus. It's going to take you longer to get back to that state of flow. So take the break. It seems counterintuitive, like I'm right in the middle of something. I don't want to get up and take a break. Trust me, when you do that, your brain is going to reward you by being sharper, clearer, more focused when you come back.
Yeah, super great, super great. And then checklists. I saw some, we were talking about making it easier to remember all the steps for checklists, but it's frightening about even the things that seem relatively simple to have a checklist with. I was listening, actually, I listened to Brian Johnson, who has an app called Heroic. I always call it Optimize because that was the previous name.
Yeah, I know.
But they were talking about doctors, and it was only like 10 or 11 steps, but they instituted a checklist for the surgical procedure, and the mortality rate went down like 50% or just something frightening because there were only 11 steps. But in order for them to have this checklist and just go down the thing, things weren't left behind there.
Yeah, I know. And I know the airline pilots, that's kind of where the term checklist came up, was
Really?
Pilots after World War I. And there's all these instruments, right? As the airplane kept getting more complex, they would have to have their pre-flight checklist and their during the flight checklist, right? So the pre-flight, what do they check around the plane, all that kind of stuff. because it was too hard to remember. Did I check all this stuff, right? And then now they've got it down to like their 6-pack of here's the main things I need to be checking. They still have their main checklist, but that's kind of where that term checklist came from. Was pilots after World War I were like, this is getting too complicated to remember. And training, they had to train, unfortunately, new pilots all the time, right, to come in and take over. And so how do they make sure they're looking at the same things consistently each time so that the plane was safe and everybody on the plane was safe? So
I love the visual that goes along with that for me. Check, 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 check.
yes,
But
yes,
having the checklist to me is kind of like the first step of becoming ready to have a VA, because you're going to be able to hand off a task, and here's the steps that happen with each individual thing. So like for me
yes,
doing a webinar this morning, I had a checklist that I was running to make sure that simple things like, do I have water by me to be able to talk? Do I have a pen and a pad of paper to take notes? Those little things can set you off. So just take the more strain we can take off the brain to remember those check items, the more efficient your brain's going to be present and focus.
yes. Love it, love it, love it. Yes, I make checklists all the time, and you don't have to make big, complicated, fancy checklists, right? Sometimes I just write down the steps or type them up, and then I just throw them into a little note on my, my text notes on my thing, so I can go back and say, especially if it's something you do frequently, but you do it often enough, right? It's consistent enough, but you do it maybe once a month or something. So, like bigger things that you're doing hopefully more frequently, you can go into more detail and save those somewhere, and save them where you can find them, right? That's where the Google Drive organization comes back in. Where did I put that checklist? So
yeah, and ChatGPT can help you write a checklist, or double
yes,
check your checklist. Drop your checklist in and say, are there any other steps I might consider?
yes, yes,
Brainstorm.
perfect. Great. And then our last thing is in systems is really just that's important and not urgent, right? So going back to the quadrant of work, I can't remember where it came from at the moment. Do you remember where that, the quadrant I'm thinking of?
Well, it's often
Important, not urgent,
attributed to Stephen Covey, but I think there was
yeah,
actually somebody before him that coined that quadrant of because we've got things that are important that are urgent. We've got
yes,
important, not urgent, but then we've
right.
got the unimportant that we tend to do urgently and
Yes,
it's like
yes,
if we could focus more and more of that time on the things that are most important, that are going to be the change makers, push our business forward. The more time we can spend in that quadrant, the more progress we're going to be making, the more we can find those things that we can delegate for others. When we do have that team, you're going to be making more
yes.
money, so you can afford those people. So
Yes, yes. So that goes back, we've mentioned in multiple episodes, we've mentioned the 80-20 rule, right? So 20% of your efforts lead to 80% of your results. So those are the important and hopefully not urgent, but they're important, right? And so how do we make sure we're focusing on the right things? So it's one thing to focus on a whole big list, but really how do we narrow our list to what's really going to make a difference in our business, right? In our lives. So that's, again, going back to that brain dump and then reprioritizing your list. How do we focus? How do we figure out what are the 20% that are going to lead to 80% of our results? And then what are we doing in that 80% of our stuff that we could start to eliminate, outsource, delegate, let ChatGPT handle for us, all those kind of things, right? So, yes. All right. I think that's it. We
yay!
got through so many tools, technology, and systems. I could talk for hours and hours on this stuff.
So
So,
there's a joyful challenge. Like, pick one of these things and
yeah,
run with it this week. Which one sparks for you? And or maybe there's one that you've been avoiding. Like, take that by the horns and give it a full test drive this week. What can you improve upon this week?
yes, yes. All right. So again, this was our bonus episode of the Joyful Solopreneur. We hope that you have found inspiration, valuable insights in each and every episode. You can go back and listen to them over and over again. By the time you're hearing this, they will all be dropped and live, all 9 episodes. So we would love to hear from you. So there is in the show notes access to a link to give us some feedback. We'd love to hear your thoughts, your questions, suggestions if you want to hear more from Kathy and I. There's also a link to reach out and schedule a call with us if you're interested in working with us or learning more about how we work with entrepreneurs. There's a link to both of our calendars in the show notes, so please go click that and get a time on our calendar so we can talk about your business, what's going on, and how we can help you be a more joyful solopreneur. And then again, if you have topics or you'd like to hear from us again, this was just our pop-up podcast, but we're open to sharing more information if there's an interest out there. So let us know.
Just like Netflix, right, Mary?
Right.
So season by season. If y'all like what's going on, we'd be happy to turn out some more because it's been joyful for us. And
yes.
Okay.
You. And maybe I was going to hit my 30-second dance party, but I like our other music better. So we'll wrap up with our music. So go and have a joyful day. Be a joyful solopreneur, and we'll talk to you soon.